Hello, hello, and welcome. It might be 2 p.m. for you, it might be 3 p.m., it might be a totally other time of day. But before we jump in, I would love to hear where you're tuning in from today. And if you have a time zone that's just completely different or far away from 2 or 3 p.m., feel free to share that with us as well. I'm Rebecca from Malt, and I will introduce myself just shortly. But I'm sitting or tuning in with you from Munich today, and it's quite sunny, and we have 3 p.m. right now. And I'm a community developer at Malt. That means that I'm responsible for our freelance community at Malt in the Germany region, creating events, webinars, content, and getting to know new partners who can offer amazing benefits for our freelance community as well. So hello to you in Dresden, in Berlin, in Nuremberg. Welcome, welcome. So I'll just very shortly, like I said, share a little bit about Malt with you. And then we will hand right over to Liz, who is an Adobe Express ambassador and here to teach us all about branding today. If you do have any questions, so please keep them until after Liz's content. We have a questions function at the bottom where you can type in your question and other people can also vote if you have the same question. Otherwise, feel free to also just pop it into the chat and I'll be collecting all of the questions to share at the end as well. So just a short kind of background of Malt. Malt is a freelancer marketplace, so bringing together clients and talent, freelance talent in Europe. And it was founded in 2013 by 2 freelancers. So it's a marketplace for freelancers, created by freelancers. And today we actually have over 550,000 freelancers Europe-wide and 60,000 clients who are using Malt to look for talent to complete their projects with. And why would you work on Malt as a freelancer? Well, we have a lot of different kind of winning aspects that might convince you, but one is it's a new way to come and have access to different types of projects. Like I said, we have a lot of different clients, so maybe you'd like to have access or exposure to different types of projects. Projects get matched with you based on how you fill out your profile. So you can kind of imagine putting in some of the skills are similar to keywords that would be searched for. So when a client briefs a project in, then the project is matched with keywords that are in your profile as well. Focus on your work and not on your admin. So it's a one-stop shop in terms of creating quotes, managing your projects, automating invoices, and such. Hello, hello. I see all of you still writing in the chat. Then fast and secure payment. So all of the projects are pre-financed. That means that Malt pays you. And so no more waiting, 60, 90 plus days for invoices to get paid. On average, you're paid in about 3 business days. And we're a freelancer first business and community. And we have community teams in each of the markets that we're working in. So whether you're in London or in the UK, in France, Spain, Germany, the Netherlands, we have teams there who are creating local events for you and webinars as well. And these are just some of the different clients who you might be able to see on Malt. We also have a lot of different partners who are offering special offers for our freelance community, and these will vary depending on the market that you're in. So I welcome you to visit the website and scroll all the way down to the bottom where you can see partnerships and resources, and that's where you'll be able to find what's relevant for your local market. And that's basically it from my side. If you have any questions, feel free to email either community@malt.com or community@malt.de if you're in Germany, or .es if you're in Spain. And with that being said, I will hand right over to Liz.
Amazing, thank you. Let me just get my presentation up and then we can get going. It's going to be a whistle-stop tour about branding today. So thinking about how branding can help you stand out as a freelancer. So just a bit of an introduction. My name's Liz. I'm a branding designer and I specialize in branding for small businesses. I also do a lot of work with Adobe and I'm an Adobe Express ambassador. I use it for myself, promoting myself, but also I use it with my clients who I create branding for. I'm also a podcast host. I'm obsessed with social media, probably the main way that I market myself. And I'm also obsessed with making GIFs to share on social media. I don't know why I put that in there, but it's just a fun, interesting extra. And I'm a freelancer. So hopefully in a good position to talk to you about branding, branding for freelancers today. So before we get started, Rebecca's going to put up a quick poll for me. And I want to know whether you think of yourself as a brand, as a freelancer, because I think it's can be a bit of a sticky topic. So yeah, when you see the poll, let me know if you can think of yourself as a brand or not. So yeah, you can submit your vote and then we should be able to see the answers, which is cool. Oh, awesome. Okay. So it's looking, at the moment, it's about 50-50. Few more on the no side. Interesting. Okay, well, you can keep voting. I think historically, this was the case for me a few years ago, as freelancers, I think we really struggle to think of ourselves as brands because I think we really associate it with large corporate businesses. And so that word doesn't feel very relevant to us. But actually, if you can change that mindset and you start thinking of yourself as a brand, whether that's a personal brand or a business brand, and we'll have a look at that in a minute, it can really, I think, help you promote yourself more effectively and attract the right sort of clients. And that's what we're going to be having a look at today. So what is branding? I feel like this is just the absolute nightmare question because everyone's got a slightly different take on it. But I pulled out a couple of quotes that I think are helpful. This one from Seth Godin: a brand is the set of expectations, memories, stories, and relationships that taken together account for a consumer's decision to choose one product or service over another. So as freelancers, it's going to be, what are the things that make us unique and identify us, and help a potential client to choose us over a different freelancer, like those sort of like distinguishing elements. And there's all different aspects to branding. When I talk about it today, I'm going to be talking a lot about the visual aspects of it, so your visual branding, but it also includes, your messaging, your positioning, your customer service, how you invoice, any touch point that a client has with your business, that is part of your branding and the sort of brand experience that they have with you. Another quote, which I think is really helpful, from Jason Hartman, is: your personal brand is a promise to your clients, a promise of quality, consistency, competency, and reliability. So, I mean, that pretty much speaks for itself, but obviously as freelancers, and this is where I think it does help to think of ourselves as brands, we need to build trust in our brand. We need people to trust us and be willing to employ us and work with us. And there's a whole sort of facet of different areas that will help us build up that trust. And your visual branding is one of those areas. So in the chat, let me know what your business is. What is your service? What product do you sell? I'm guessing as a freelancer, it's more likely to be a service. But yeah, let us know in the chat what it is that you do. Just be interesting to see the kind of range we have here. Ooh, medical illustration. That's interesting. iPhone app development. Amazing. Oh, these are so exciting. Copywriter, freelance illustrator, and artist. Amazing. Oh, we've got a really nice range. Social media strategies. Yep, brilliant. Great. Okay. So this is obviously going to be relevant to everybody. It potentially will look slightly different for everybody based on what their business is. But ultimately, the impact that branding can have is going to be the same, whatever business sphere you're working in. So the big question is, do you need a personal brand or a business brand? And today, I think we're going to end up talking primarily about personal branding, because as a freelancer, it often makes more sense to build a personal brand, because your business is sort of around you and your personality. People are going to be working with you directly. So often for these sorts of businesses, or for you being a freelancer, your business might be your name. So you might be a creative, an influencer, a coach. There's lots of other examples in the chat, like a copywriter, an illustrator, a social media manager, all of those things, where it's just you in the business, or you might be outsourcing a few elements of it, but you're basically, your business is built around people working with you directly. Then I think it makes sense to have a personal brand. There's a lot of reasons why that's easier. There are instances where you might decide that a business brand is better for you. And that's where I guess you don't want to be the sort of face of your business, or you've got a team. And so it doesn't make sense for it to be about you personally. So you decide that you have sort of branding that reflects a larger business rather than just one person individually. But as I said, I think as freelancers, for me personally, it's definitely made more sense for me to build a personal brand, even if I am outsourcing some aspects of my work, because I am the person that people are going to interact with if they use my services. If they work with me, there isn't going to be anyone else in between. So I feel like I can confidently build my brand around me personally and my personality. I think that'll be the same for a lot of you. So why should you build a brand, a personal brand? And as I mentioned before, sometimes it's a little bit of a mindset shift to start thinking of yourself as a brand. I think personal brand makes it a little bit easier because that makes more sense to us as freelancers. But why should you do it? Ultimately, you do it to achieve your goals and to be strategic and intentional about how you do that. So I'm sure as you work with various clients, maybe you've got particular dream clients that you want to work with. Maybe you want to feature in a particular publication, speak on a particular stage. Like, you've got goals, and your branding, your personal branding, is a tool that you can use to achieve those really particular goals. So we're going to have a think about how you can start building that personal brand. But first up, what really helps is to actually get clear on what those goals are, because as I mentioned, this is like a really strategic and intentional tool that you can use to get from A to B, but you need to know what B is so that you can then come up with a plan to get there, and you can make your visual branding work as effectively as possible to get you to that point. So your goal can be, it can be very personal to you. So it could be a financial goal, a particular lifestyle. Maybe you want to reach a particular level of like reputation in your industry. Maybe it's like personal fulfillment. For me, a lot of my goals are around having flexibility as a freelancer. So being able to do work that I find fulfilling, but also balance it around spending time with my family. That's a big motivator for me. And so my branding can help me to build that sort of business. So yeah, spend a little bit of time. Obviously, we're going through this quite quickly, so you might want to come back and have a think about this, but spend a bit of time. I really encourage you to write them down, work out sort of 3 to 5 goals that you're working towards. And then you're going to want to think about your brand foundations. Now, I think when it comes to visual branding, it's really tempting to start doing all of the exciting bits that look good first. You want to get a snazzy logo and your colors sorted, but often if we rush into that, we don't think about the foundations of our brand. So here are a few elements I think it's important to think about. First up, your brand values. So what are the important non-negotiable aspects of your business? In today's sort of society, today's business world, if we think of ourselves as consumers, we often really connect with businesses whose values align with us. And so if you can communicate your values, it doesn't have to be really explicitly. You could be just communicating them in the way you do business, the sort of content you share. There's all different ways of getting those across. That is going to help you attract clients that are aligned with your values. Next up, you can think about having a brand promise. So that is just a statement where you explain exactly what it is that you're going to deliver and what people can expect from your business. So let everyone know what it is that you're going to do, and then make sure that you keep delivering on that promise. And that is one of the key ways of building up trust in you as a freelancer, in your personal brand. And then the next thing to think about is your target audience. So who is it that you're trying to attract, and where are they hanging out? What are the problems that they're having, and how can you solve them? The more you can get to know the target audience, the more you can be really strategic about how you communicate with them, and communicating with them in a way that is going to work and resonate for them. So, it might be a case of knowing what social media platform they tend to use, what magazines they tend to read, where can you show up that they're going to be, so that you've got more chance of getting yourself and your services in front of them. Now, just another quick little question. Obviously, we're speeding through this so fast, but off the top of your head, if you haven't thought about your values before as a freelancer in your business, what would you say is probably one of your top values? So for me, one of my values is generosity. So that looks like, sharing tutorials on YouTube, sharing free content through my podcast. Share in the chat what one of your values might be. It could be something to do with sustainability or the environment, or it could be to do with collaboration or nurturing community. Those are just a few examples off the top of my head. Obviously, it could be all sorts of things, and you don't have to have one, but just for the purposes of this, if you can share one in the chat, that would be awesome. Something that's really important and integral to you. And as a freelancer, your brand values and your personal values are very likely to be almost identical, because your businesses are built around you and your personality. So we've got one: honesty. Lots of things on social media seem dishonest, but that's not me. That is a great one. And if you if you really sort of make sure that comes across in how you communicate your business, that is going to help distinguish you from other people. Because like you mentioned, there are a lot of things on social media that come across really inauthentic, very dishonest. And so because I think, Sarah, you said you were a social media strategy. So yeah, exactly. So that's a great way that you can distinguish yourself. Courage, that's another brilliant one. Being bold. Passion is a great one. Yeah, so passion for medicine and drawing. I love how you've brought those two elements together in your career. And also, I imagine that medical illustration is going to be like helping a lot of people, educating people. Education, that could be one. So yeah, these are some great examples. So again, after the workshop, spend a little bit of time, aim to come up with sort of maybe like 3 to 5, and just work out what those brand values are. And they are going to set a really good foundation for your brand, and they're going to help you work out the direction that you want to go in. And so what I really love about being clear on what my values are is that it makes it so much easier for me to make decisions in my business. So if an opportunity comes my way that is not aligned with my values, it's so much easier for me to say no. Or if an opportunity comes my way and it's really aligned, then I might feel a bit scared about it, but it just feels like the right fit, and so it's an easier yes. And then again, like as I said, communicating those values with your audience, with your clients, is going to help bring in and attract the sort of clients that you want to be working with, because ultimately we want to be working with people who share our values. So those are the brand foundations. Now we're going to think about the visual branding. So this is what you would think of I mean, there's so many aspects of visual branding, but the main things that you would usually think of, and we're going to go into this a bit more in a bit, is like your logo, the colors that you're using, the fonts that you're using. So first of all, it builds trust. So if we see, we're a very visual people, if we see something over and over and over again, it becomes familiar, we trust it, we recognize it. So that's my second point, recognizability. We want people to be able to see content that we're putting out there, our marketing materials, and immediately know that it's from us and that it's relevant to them, because ultimately we are bombarded constantly by so much content. We're having to really quickly decide whether something is relevant for us or not, because there's a lot out there that isn't relevant. So how can we make our content stand out so that our target audience know that it's relevant for them and they stop and they consume it? Next up, it saves time. This is my favorite one. So the way that I like to think about your visual branding is like a uniform. So I don't know if you've heard like stories of like Steve Jobs or Mark Zuckerberg, who always wore a black t-shirt and jeans, and that was like their uniform. And ultimately it was to remove decision fatigue. So they were having to make really like big decisions every day in their business, but they didn't want to have to think about what they wore every day. So they had this uniform. And it's the same for your business. If you have already made decisions about how your branding is going to look, when you are making a quick post for social media, you're not going to have to spend ages deciding, oh, what color looks right here? What should I use? Oh, does this font say what I want it to say? Does this font work? It's going to be a uniform for your business, and it's going to save you loads of time. And later in a few minutes, we're going to head over into Adobe Express, and I'll be showing you how that you can use that as a tool to, save you loads of time. I can't even imagine how many hours of time it saved me, which is really cool. So how can you attract your ideal customer? The more that you know, I've kind of touched on this already, the more you know about your ideal customer, the more you can make sure that your branding is appealing to them in the way that it looks, and that your messaging appeals to them too. Ultimately, you want to find them, you want to draw them in. And we've talked already about how you can do that with your values, but you can also do that with how your branding looks. Another sort of way that you can attract the right people is by adding your personality to your branding. You want branding that's like memorable. You can use stories, you can use humor, nostalgia. You could have bold opinions that are maybe a bit controversial. And I think as a personal brand, as freelancers, it's much easier for us to draw on these different elements, often very influenced by what we are like, what our personality is like. So, if you love telling jokes or you're very humorous, you can make that a part of your branding. Again, we're looking for these ways that we can distinguish ourselves from other freelancers. I guess like you'd call them your competition, but I always hate using that word because it feels a bit negative, because it's not like we're all sort of fighting with each other, but ultimately we do want people to choose us as a freelancer over someone else. So these are just a few ways as well that you can do that are less related to the visual branding. And then this is how you can do it with the visual branding. So it could be the sort of illustrations that you use, the style of photography. I'm obsessed with making patterns, and I love including patterns in my branding. So that's a way that you can do it. The color palette you use, the fonts that you use, all of these elements communicate something about you and your business. And so you can make sure that they're communicating as effectively as possible. So you're probably listening to all of this and thinking like, okay, great, but what should my branding look like? Now, one of the ways that I think it's really helpful to start considering this is thinking about how you want your customers or clients to feel when they're interacting with your brand, your personal brand. So maybe you could just quickly pop in the chat for me how you want people to feel when they work with you. So it could be, some examples could be inspired, calm, like if you were like running a yoga studio and you're doing yoga lessons, maybe you want them to feel like calm and nourished. Maybe you want them to feel like motivated to action. So Matthias has put down, oh boy, I sure want to hire that person. Yeah, so you want to like motivate them. You want them to feel motivated. You want to inspire action. You want to inspire them to do something. If anyone, yeah, let me know in the chat if anyone else has got any others. Sarah's put safe. That is a really great one. So it's like, how can you look at other businesses and see which ones give you that feeling? You know, what is it about them visually that makes you feel safe? So I guess, yeah, you want people to trust you as a business. You want to be reliable and safe. Lots of customers are often unsure about social media, so they should trust me and feel safe with your guidance. Yeah, that's brilliant. Okay, so Matthias has put, I want them to be able to throw ideas back and forth to reach the best designs we can come up with, as opposed to prescribe things. So that's so helpful that you know that, because that is basically the way you work is collaborative. So you can you are going to want branding that looks friendly and open and, you know, welcoming to people, because you want to start that discussion. You want to be able to communicate, and also within your messaging you're going to talk about that sort of thing, so that people understand what they can expect working with you, which is this collaboration, which is really yeah, really helpful. These are all great suggestions in the chat. So yes, think about how you want people to feel, because all of the elements of your visual branding have the possibility of engendering different feelings and emotions. So these are two examples. These are fellow Adobe Express ambassadors of mine. And obviously they've got very different businesses, but they have very different feels as well. So over here on the left, this is very sort of like Nordic inspired. It's very calm, it's very peaceful, it's about simplicity, it's like using natural products. Whereas over on the right, this is really like bold. This business is all about PR and hyping yourself. So it's very yeah, it's very bold, it's very motivational, like it's encouraging you to do something, to take action. So those are just quite like two quite stark examples, which I think it helps to see side by side. So what makes up your visual branding? So you've got your logo, you've got the typography that you use, so what fonts you use, you've got the color palette you use, you've got the illustrations, and you've got photography. Now, you might not use all of these. Maybe you don't need illustrations in your branding, or you might have some symbols or a pattern, but this sort of gives you a general idea of all of the elements that you could have together. And if you, whether you're creating your branding yourself or you're outsourcing it to a designer, I would really recommend creating a brand guidelines document. So that's just like, it can just be a PDF, just somewhere where you collate together all the information about your brand. So that would be storing your logo files, making a note of what fonts you're going to use, having the hex codes of your colors, any illustration photography, have it all in one place so it's really easy to access. And in Adobe Express, in a second, I'm going to show you how you can do that. So here are just a few examples. I've just pulled out some examples of logos so that you can just see kind of what we were talking about just now, like how they evoke different emotions. Like this is, again, like bold, but it's very fun and playful, but it's like, you know, very motivational. Over on the left, this is a bit sort of more corporate, a bit more serious. Over on the right, you know, this hand-drawn logo is very friendly, it's very welcoming, very sort of like community focused. So yeah, you can sort of see the contrast from all those different styles. Again, with colors, each of these color palettes communicate something slightly different. You can, you know, you can do a bit more research into color psychology, but there's sort of different tones here. You've got your pastels, your brighter colors, maybe your more muted natural tones, and they all sort of say something slightly different. So that's why it's good to think about what it is that you want to communicate. Again, typography, you know, this is something that's very classic and elegant. So maybe if you are working with sort of corporate businesses, this might help them to feel sort of safe and secure. But maybe if you're working with, I don't know, like more, I guess, sort of creative businesses, you might want to go for something like more playful and fun. So yeah, you can really see how different fonts have different personalities, and again can help you communicate what it is you want to communicate. And then again, the same again, we've got photography, you know, like the props you use, how you edit the photos, the style of photography. They can like communicate and evoke different emotions and feelings. Same again with illustrations, you know, you can go for things that are you know, more heritage, more old-fashioned, more traditional, that communicates something about your business. Or you can go for like really bright and colorful and playful, that communicates something else about your business. And then you can apply all of those elements, you know, like to your social media. Like it's really important to keep everything consistent so that people can build up that trust, the recognizability that we talked about earlier, and also to save you time. That is exactly what I've just said. So yeah, that's why it's important to keep your branding consistent. So a few ways that we can do that. Now, I've mentioned the brand guidelines, but we are going to have a think now, looking in Adobe Express at the brand kit, the libraries, and the templates. I know I'm going through this at quite a pace. So if you've got any questions, do put them in the question feature or in the chat, and there will be time shortly and I will definitely answer them. So I'm just going to close my slides and I'm going to share my screen because we are going to look at Adobe Express. So if you are not familiar with Adobe Express before, it is a tool that Adobe have created that is really helpful for creating content. So yes, often like lots of sort of social media content. I mean, you can do print as well, which is great. There's lots of different options of what you can create. But what I want to show you is once you've got your brand in place, your personal brand, how you can set it up on Adobe Express to save yourself time. So you'll see over here on the left, we've got brands, and you can have all sorts of different brands in there. So I've got a few different options. I've got one for my podcast. I've got one for myself. I've got ones for clients, and they all sit in this section here. But today I'm going to create a pretend brand just to show you how easy it is to do and how you can do it in minutes. So when you click on to create a brand, it'll prompt you here to upload your logo. So I've got a logo for a fake social media company here, and you'll see that immediately it starts to give examples on the right of how it's going to look. Next up, you're going to add a color. Now it's given me the color here for from the logo, but you can also put in hex codes down here, which is great. We can click save. Again, it's going to update it over there. You can choose your font. So you can upload, if you've bought a font that you love for your branding, you can put that in there, but I'm just going to pick this one. And let's just save it. So I'm just going to name the brand. So now here we have our brand. Now we're not going to sort of leave it there. We can flesh it out a bit more. So you'll probably have more than one logo option. So we'll just load in the other color options just to give you some flexibility. Let's put this black one in as well. But you can pick which is going to be your sort of main logo. So that's going to be our main logo. Let me just change the size of my screen so I can close it. Then we're going to add some colors. So I'm going to add in a black. I'm going to add in a white. And you can type in the hex code that you saved, but I'm just going to add in the pink. I think it was around there. Okay, so we've got our color palette set up there. And then I'm just going to adjust the fonts. So for this one, I'm going to go for Lato and replace that. Again, you can upload your own fonts here if you need to. So yeah, that is our brand kit all set up and ready to go. Now, if you, as a freelancer, maybe outsource some jobs or work with somebody else, you can invite people to this brand. So you just click on here and put in their email, and they'll be able to access it and they'll be able to use your branding. So that's great if you've got someone who's maybe helping you with social media content or something like that. You can also go in here and edit how your brand's going to look on different surfaces. So Adobe Express has the capability to create a one-page website. You can also create some video content. So you can set up how your logo is going to look in those different settings. So that's on a video stamp. I can change the logo that's going to come onto my social media. So maybe I'll change it to the black one. So you can sort of preset all of these different options. And like I mentioned before, it's going to save you so much time because the decisions are already made. You're not having to make them over and over again. So we've got our brand. So if I go back now here, you'll see it's appeared down here. And what you want to do is you want to make this your default brand so that when you are like working on social media templates or designs or whatever it is you're working on, this is the one. It's going to bring up your logos and your colors for this brand. You can easily toggle between them while you're working, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute, but it just, yeah, it's going to be helpful if you've got this set as your default. Now, the other way that you can save yourself time is through libraries. So you can set up a library for your brand. Now, what's nice about this is that if you are a creative professional, well, or whatever, you know, if you've got Creative Cloud, and you use Photoshop and Illustrator and InDesign, any of those tools, you can create the library with assets that you've made in those tools, and they'll be available to you in Adobe Express as well. So that's a really helpful integration. So you might have created some illustrations in Illustrator. You can save them in your library, and then you'll be able to access them to use in your designs on Adobe Express. So let's head over to the home page, and you'll notice that there are loads of professionally designed templates that you can use. So yeah, basically this is going to help you create on-brand content really quickly. And again, you know, we want it to be on brand so that we can build up that trust and recognizability. So I'm just going to look for a social, I'm just going to type in social media because this is a social media company, and we'll find a template that we can customize. And I'll show you how quick and easy it is to do. Let's see. Let's take this one as an example. So what I can do is head over to this button on the right and click design, and you'll see here it says apply brand, and literally with one click it is going to update this template to include my brand colors and fonts. Now you'll see this kind of looks a bit weird. This isn't what I was actually going for, but there's a shuffle button, so I can shuffle through the different colors of my brand. So it's really easy to customize. And you know, I mentioned before about being able to toggle between brands. You can just do that here. Now I'm just gonna, although it's done most of it itself, you know, it's added my logo, it's changed the fonts. I'm just going to update some of the colors. I don't know what these dots are here for, actually. Oh, okay, that's part of it. I'm just going to update some of the colors. So I'm going to bring in the pink from my branding. I'm going to delete these because I don't need them. I might decide that actually I want to replace this, and automatically it brings up all my logos. I'm going to replace it to the white logo, and you'll see it's updated it there for me. And now I'm thinking, oh, well, this needs to be a picture of me, not of this girl with pink hair. So this is where libraries are really helpful. And it's not on brand for this brand, but I've got a library of my own sort of images. So I can just grab a picture of me. If I do replace, then it's going to bring it in automatically. So let me just quickly do that. And it's going to pop it in that spot. And so you'll see within less than 10 minutes, I have set up brand. I've found a template that I like. I have created, you know, an on-brand design. The other thing that you can do, which is really helpful, I might create this for LinkedIn, for example, and then decide, oh, actually, I want this as an Instagram post as well. So I can duplicate the design, click on resize, and then I can pick Instagram. And it might need a bit of juggling around, like I might need to just move the photo around. Maybe I want to just change how the type's laid out. But you'll see that very quickly, we've now got the same post, but repurposed for different platforms, which is really helpful. And so it just helps you to use your brand and your content as effectively as possible. There's loads of other things that you can do with Adobe Express as well. There's lots of quick actions. You can create QR codes. You can edit video. You can edit images, PDFs. So there's lots to play around with. If you click on here, you'll see there's loads of different templates that you can start from. And you can start from a blank page and create your own templates, or you can start from one of the templates here. So yeah, that is the end of my presentation. I'm just going to share a slide that Francisca gave me, which is, if you are also interested in being an Adobe Express ambassador, you can head to this website. I can recommend it. It's really fun. There's rewards that you can win, lots of challenges, all that kind of thing. So that's a QR code there for that application form. But yeah, feel free. We've got sort of, I think, 15 minutes left for questions. So if you've got questions about Adobe Express, about branding, then yeah, pop them in the question section or in the chat, and I'd be very happy to answer them.
Thank you so much, Liz.
Thanks for having me.
Then we'll just give everyone a few minutes to pop anything into the chat that you might want to say or ask.
Yeah, so it was a very fast presentation.
You will get the recording,
yeah.
so just so that you know.
You can go back. I would really recommend, so going back and all the green slides with the questions on, I definitely recommend going back and spending a bit more time thinking about your answers to those if possible. But yeah, it was fast, definitely. Oh, could you show your own brand? Yeah, sure. Okay, let me just close this screen. I have it set up in Adobe Express, so I can show you there. Oh no, I'm not showing that. Hang on, let me just get that up. So for my brand, I have, it doesn't look great here because it's white on white, but I've basically gone for a very hand-lettered. I want it to be very personal. I wanted my logo to be my handwriting. So that's why I've gone for that as my logo. This is my color palette. Again, like it was sort of, I definitely thought about the sort of clients that I wanted to attract. A lot of them were sort of the sort of clients that would potentially go for like more muted colors. So it made sense for me to have more muted colors. But I actually feel like this could do with a refresh now. And I've had this for a long time. So yeah, that's something that I'm thinking about, but I'm not going to sort of completely overhaul it. One of the things that's quite nice is that you can just update elements as your brand grows and evolves to make it work effectively for you. So I'm thinking that I just might bring in the odd brighter color. And then my brand font is Quincy. I wanted something that was serif and quite traditional, but it's very curved. It's like, although it's sort of more on the traditional side, it's still quite modern, and it's got like quite a friendly feel, I think. And then if I head over to libraries, well, I showed a quick example of it just now. Let's see if I can find, if it's this one. You can see examples of my brand photography. And I've also got my logos in here as well. So I make sure that when I do photographs, there's sort of like lots of green elements in there, whether that's like through clothing or props. just so that it then works together with the other aspects of my branding. So yeah, hopefully that is interesting. Sarah says, I'm admiring the way you talk about values for your brand, but for me, it's hard to put the value honesty into visuals. Any suggestions behind hiring a freelancer? Yeah, I mean, I think one of the, with honesty, it's going to be less about the visuals and it's going to be more about how you communicate. So it's going to be about having integrity, delivering on what you say you're going to deliver, like representing yourself truthfully is going to be key. One of the ways that you can do this is, so for example, if you were talking about your business and it's just you, like talk about yourself rather than making out like it's a big team, which is something that people are often quite tempted to do. Like there's not necessarily anything wrong with that, but I think it's good to represent your business as it actually is. There's ways that you can attract often people do that because they want to attract big clients, right? There's ways that you can do that doesn't mean that you have to make out that you've got a massive team. In terms of like the visuals, I think it's going to be a case of trying to create something, I think, that feels authentic to you, but also sort of welcoming and friendly. So, you're potentially not going to go for something that's very maybe like, like maybe harsh, maybe not super bold, because actually you want people, you mentioned that something that was important to you was like safety. You want people to feel safe. So maybe it's less about sort of challenging them or pushing them to action, and it's more about them feeling like welcomed by you and like you're safe for them to approach. Hopefully that helps. How many colors would you choose for your brand? There's no sort of definite rule on this. Sometimes it helps to have a few just to give you flexibility. One of the things that I would recommend is having colors that are tonally quite different. So accessibility, I didn't touch on this, but accessibility is important when it comes to your visual branding. So you want to make sure that you've got good contrast between your colors. So it might be that you make sure that you've got a good dark color, a good light color, and then something in the middle. But yeah, I think you can have one that is your dominant like brand color. So like, for example, if you look at Malt's branding, that kind of like corally red is there. That's their sort of like one primary brand color, but they obviously have a wider color palette that they can bring in. If like Rebecca's presentation, there was like blues in there was like lots of other colors that they use. So you can definitely have one that you prioritize and then other accent colors. But yeah, I mean, there's no strict rule. Some brands go for monochrome and keep it really simple, and that works really well for them. And they literally just have black and white, or maybe they have black and white and one pop accent color. But yeah, it's having the contrast of colors, I think, is what's really helpful for you in terms of creating designs. No problem. Yeah, hopefully that was helpful. If you can come find me on Instagram. My Instagram handle is at Liz M Mosley, and if you've got any questions afterwards, like feel free to come ask me. I've also got a podcast all about branding and marketing, which is called Building Your Brand. So you can check that out for more sort of free content that's really helpful. And if you do have Creative Cloud, Fran wanted me to mention, Adobe Express is part of that. So you already have access to the premium account of Creative Cloud, of Adobe Express, sorry. If you don't have Creative Cloud, there's a free option of Adobe Express that you can use, but just some of the features won't be available, or you won't have access to sort of all the stock photography or all the fonts. But you can also just choose to pay a sort of smallish monthly fee to get the premium version if you don't have Creative Cloud.
Cool. Thank you. I think Melina is still typing, so we will just wait because sometimes the questions take with the chat takes a little while to load.
Yeah, no problem. One more question. Specifically for my medical designs, there are a lot of colors, so I can still make them colorful but change, for example, on Instagram, some normal colors as branding. So I think branding for illustrators is actually interesting. What you can do is, I often think that keeping your branding very simple, color palette wise, is helpful. So that it's not clashing with the colors in your illustration. I know what a lot of illustrators do is they create themselves quite a broad color palette, but they do stick to it. So that gives some consistency within their illustrations. But so, for example, if you are illustrating for other brands, they are going to have they're going to have like colors that they want you to use. So obviously you can't always make your illustrations on brand for you. They're going to have to be on brand for the client. But it might be, what sort of like tones you use. Someone who I think is brilliant at this, and I haven't got the link right now, but I can find it. There's an illustrator, a French illustrator who lives in the UK called Melanie Johnson. And she has a whole range of colors in her color palette, but everything looks really consistent with her style and how she uses color. So I think that can be a really helpful example. Like one posting for the organ and the other for a post with like an uplifting text. Okay, yeah. So what I would probably do is, there's like a few different options. You could just pick one color that is your brand color. So when you're posting, maybe an uplifting text, or maybe you've got like an educational carousel post, you can do it in that color. But the key is just going to be making sure that it's something that isn't going to clash with your illustration. So it might be for you that actually monochrome is a really good option, that you keep, like text-based stuff black and white, and then that lets the sort of color from the illustrations really stand out. Or there might be quite a neutral color that you could use. Or you might decide that you draw in colors from all of your illustrations and you just make sure that they look cohesive together on your like social posts. Sorry, there's not a definite answer. That's the thing that's a bit annoying about branding, is often there are some rules, but a lot of the time it does depend on your situation and how you like to work. Great. Yeah, look up Melanie Johnson. I think she's a great example for an illustrator who does branding well.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Liz. And I think you were saying that if there are any other questions, people can reach out to you via LinkedIn or Instagram.
Yeah.
Perfect.
You can find me, Liz. Well, on social media, I'm Liz M. Mosley, but yeah, Liz Mosley usually brings me up on most places.
Perfect. Great. Well, thank you so much. That was super interesting. And for everyone who has signed up, you will get the recording by email, and we'll also be loading it up onto YouTube so that you can watch it again if you'd like to. Then have a wonderful afternoon and maybe already long weekend for those of you who have a bank public holiday tomorrow. And we will see you at the next Malt webinar. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.